Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Morgellons discussion and microscopy videos. I'm your host, Jeremy Murphree, and today I got a whole lot of material for you guys today. But first, if you could hit that subscribe button, punch that like, slide on down to the comments and see what's going on. And if there's nothing there, leave us a message and we'll start a discussion about Morgellons. So, yeah, I've been busy with the Morgellons online course. It's going great. People are learning what Morgellons really is. But I've gotten a few questions along the way, and I want to address those. But first, I got a letter back from the White House. Joe Biden wrote me a freaking letter. That's right, I wrote him a letter right after the inauguration in February or March. And it was about Morgellons. I was saying, hey man, can you help us out? Because I know Joe Biden likes to do the hey man. And I didn't really put that in the letter. But this is what he wrote back to me. I wanted to share it with y'all and see what you think. Dear Mr. Murphree, thank you for sending me your kind note of support and encouragement. I am humbled by the faith the American people have placed in Vice President Kamala Harris and me. Our country faces many challenges, and the road we will travel together will be one of the most difficult in our history. It is time for all Americans to set aside their differences, try to understand one another, and strive to make the promise of a just, prosperous, and secure nation a reality. If we look ahead in our uniquely American way, restless, bold, and optimistic, and set our sights on the nation we know it can be, we will meet this moment. I look forward to writing the next great chapter of the American story with you. Sincerely, Joe Biden. Man, ain't that some cool shit right there? The president wrote me a letter about Morgellons. Well, anyways, we got these questions coming out from the Real Morgellons course, and I want to answer them right away. So, question is about the Morgellons fibers. Are the fibers themselves contagious? And no, the short answer is no, they're not contagious. And I'll give you a great example. Dr. Ginger Savely has seen probably more Morgellons patients than any other doctor in the nation to this point. But she herself is not afflicted with the Morgellons condition. That's right. And she gets right up and close and personal with her patients. She does the examination and she puts the scope on it, and she's seen hundreds, if not maybe thousands of Morgellons patients. Dr. Stricker is another one out in San Francisco. He's one of the authors on a lot of these Morgellons research papers, co-authoring them, and he's seen hundreds, if not thousands, of Morgellons patients himself with direct skin-to-skin contact, and he doesn't have Morgellons himself. The best evidence we have is that Morgellons may be genetically predisposed. And there are two pieces of evidence which corroborate this hypothesis. First of all, in the canine study, it was determined that bulldogs are the species that are more predisposed and likely to develop the Morgellons condition. So it's species dependent in the dog model. Not really like it's only going to happen with just the pit bulls, but they noticed it was happening at an increased rate with that particular breed. And one thing to know about the pit bulls is that they're often overbred, meaning that they pair them up with mates to kind of keep them bulldogs, but in the process, things have happened along the way, like the legs have gotten stuntier, their faces are all shriveled up. And so it may be associated with that overbreeding, but, that's just an idea. That's not even a hypothesis. The second piece of information we have that Morgellons may be genetically predisposed is Dr. Ava Shapey did a preliminary genetic survey to find out if there were any common genetic identifiers amongst Morgellons patients. And sure enough, she did find that there were 9 genes of sequence significance in the patient cohort she was observing. So it's possible, if not likely at this point, with just the minimal evidence we have, that Morgellons could be genetically predisposed. Second question I get, and this is a big one, I get this one more often than any other question out there, is if Morgellons patients are supposed to have Lyme disease, what does it mean if I don't have a positive test? Does that mean the tests are bad, or that I don't have Lyme disease, or that I don't have Morgellons if I don't have Lyme disease? So Morgellons is a condition that I became concerned about before I learned the term, before I heard the term, because I had severe skin ulcerations. I mean, just nasty skin sores with things coming out of them. Years and years ago. The earliest I can remember artifacts coming out of my skin was all the way back in 2003, 2004. Yeah, all the way back then. And it wasn't the fibers themselves. I would have never known anything about the fibers because they're so small if I hadn't looked at them with the microscope. So the answer is that another bacterial species besides Lyme disease has been demonstrated to be associated with Morgellons, and that's tick-borne relapsing fever. Now, you may be surprised to know that there's not a standardized test, to the best of my knowledge. There's a specialized test from IGeneX, but your doctor would have to know to look for the infection and to ask for that test. And so that's why I recommend seeing the Lyme disease specialist, because just like Lyme disease, tick-borne relapsing fever can be transmitted through the bite of a tick. Tick-borne relapsing fever is also not, as the name implies, a fever. It's actually a Borrelia bacteria, which is just like Lyme disease. It is also a Borrelia bacteria. So if you have a negative Lyme disease test, that could mean several things. But the most important thing is, do you have sores on your skin that are bothering you? Most Morgellons patients have the sores on their skin. I understand that there are some Morgellons patients without the sores, but typically they don't even know anything about the Morgellons until the sores develop. That's when it becomes problematic. So it's important to do the only test that we know works for Morgellons, and that's to take a microscope 60 to 120 times magnification and put it in the sore. Now, you may see some multicolored filaments on the sore, but you have to make sure that what you're seeing is the fibers coming out of the skin or embedded in the skin. And when you see them, they're going to look like it's not supposed to be there. And you can definitely tell that it's embedded inside the skin tissue. That'll give you a better indication if you have Morgellons than any kind of a test. But if you have Morgellons, then it is likely that you have one of these Borrelia infections, Lyme disease or tick-borne relapsing fever. The tests, sometimes your body doesn't produce the antibodies that would be on that test, and that's what's called a false negative. Other times you have a situation where your body's producing so much antibodies that it goes off the scale that the test is looking at. And that's called the proteon effect, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I said that right, the proteon effect. And so, yeah, and of course, a Lyme disease test may not tell your doctor if you have a tick-borne relapsing fever infection, right? Because they're different strains of Borrelia. And that Lyme disease test is looking specifically for the Lyme Borrelia, and not the tick-borne relapsing fever Borrelia. All right. So another question I get, but not as frequently as the if I don't have Lyme or if I've got negative on a Lyme test question, is do the Morgellons fibers move? Do they cause sensation? Is that what causes the itching? The answer is no, absolutely not. Morgellons fibers are just malformed hairs and superficial skin that doesn't form correctly. There's no organs in them, no muscle, no bones, and they're literally the same hair that's on your head, but just not fully formed. And perhaps they were forming in the wrong direction, inside the skin instead of out away from it. Morgellons fibers don't have any mechanism for motility. So no, Morgellons fibers absolutely don't move. As far as the sensations go, as far as I understand what the research hypothesizes, is that it's a condition called formication. That's where the bacteria that's associated with the infection that results in the Morgellons fibers gets inside the nervous system. And that can cause some what you call phantom pains. It can also cause neuropathic pain. You can have the tingling in your fingers and your legs, the bottom of your feet. Your whole side of your leg could go numb. Or it could start itching real bad. It could start hurting. It could start burning. You know, that's what nerves do, is they allow us to feel sensations. But when those bacteria get up inside the nerves, they cause those nerves to misfire. So when somebody's talking about the strange itching and crawling sensation, that is not caused by the fibers. More than likely, that's caused by formication in the nervous system. The fibers are so small, you can't even see them without a microscope most of the time. You may feel a chunk of junk collagen growing up under your skin, and that's what people most often find. And this leads into the next question. What are the cocoon, white worm looking artifacts that you can feel under the skin that often come out of the skin? Those are what we call follicular casts. And what that means is that the cells that are around that follicular depression, they start producing collagen, but they're producing it at such a rapid rate and more than is supposed to be created that it fills up that cavity, the hair follicle cavity, with collagen. And you'll see it kind of poking out the top like it's ballooned out. And if you pull it out, you'll see it looks just like a little white worm, but it's not. If you send those off to a laboratory, they're going to send you a test result back that says, this is connective tissue, epithelial tissue, collagen, keratin, something like that, but it's definitely not going to be a worm. Morgellons patients rarely, if ever I've never heard of anybody having skin worms and Morgellons. I used to think that I had the white worm, but then I find out that, because I sent my specimens off to a lab, that it was connective tissue. So those are probably the top 4 questions I've gotten back from the course, and I will try to find a way to work that information, if not into this course, into the next one that we've got planned coming up. And I appreciate everybody giving me some feedback on this course. I'm glad. The biggest thing that I'm glad is that it's helping people to become autonomous in their understanding, basically, of how Morgellons works, what it really is. That it's not anything crazy. It's actually something pretty common. It's a rare disease, but it's normal. So that gets back to what we're getting ready to do, what we got planned. The survey on morgellonssurvey.org, it's down for the month, the rest of the month again, because we only get, I think it's 250 entries a month, and we're only going to do this one more month. In December, we're shutting down the Morgellons Survey 1.0 because it'll end on December 23rd. That survey will have been on the webpage for 4 whole years. Yeah. From 2017. No, wait, I'm sorry. 5 whole years. From December 23rd, 2016 to December 23rd, 2021. That's 5 years. And so we're going to take the data, we're going to go back through it, update the article, or make a new article with the updated data. And then I want to try to get this peer reviewed. I want to send this out to some universities, some researchers, and I want to see, is there anywhere we can get this information published so that people can utilize it, so that it can be factual data. And I've got all the information that should be able to verify that for any peer review panel. We know we've got the emails of these individuals. Unless you want to be opted out. If you want to opt out, and you can still do it, just let me know. Send me an email, jmurphree@activetrain.com. Catch me on Facebook, wherever you can find me. I'm all over the place. And if you don't want to be included, I'll take your data out, and it won't be a problem. But for those who want to stay in there, you may get a follow-up email saying, hey, we're attempting to get this survey data peer-reviewed and published in a prestigious journal. Is this okay? And also, maybe you have some more information that would help us towards that goal. So that's the heads up what's going on with the Morgellons survey. The other thing we want to talk about is the nonprofit. We are going to form a nonprofit. We have to do that for the cryptocurrency project that's coming up. EtherMorg I want to say it's in the final stages of being peer reviewed. This second time it's gone through, it had a better time. We're going to see if there's any more considerations that the remaining peer reviewers want to see updated in the white paper. But if they're good to go with everything, then that's it. We're going to publish it on the website, and you guys are going to be able to see what EtherMorg is all about, how you can get some EtherMorg, where the supply comes from, how I'm not involved in creating that supply or managing it, and what we're going to do to raise funds for scientific research, because that's the opportunity we have available with this cryptocurrency. We can raise funds for scientific research and make it happen. So the nonprofit, of course, the new Morgellons movement, we're going to be registered in the state of South Carolina, and then I got to go through that process of getting the 501c IRS charity designation. And I think that's it. I think that's all we got going on right now. Yeah, news has just been slack. I want to get back on the Anchor FM and do a new podcast, but news has just been so slow the past month or so, which is unfortunate because we were really starting to heat up there, especially in the summertime. There's a lot of great Morgellons news that was coming out, including those 2 Reuters articles that include links. Between the 2 articles, they included links to 3 different Morgellons study. The history of Morgellons, from delusion to definition, the association of Morgellons with Lyme disease, and a filamentous borrelial dermatitis. I mean, Reuters really hooked us up this summer towards legitimacy. And I think we're pretty much there with the science. You're going to have a lot easier getting it addressed if you go see a Lyme disease specialist, though. Like I said, no reason to go see, well, if you feel comfortable, you can talk to people about it. Talk to your doctors about it and see how they feel about Lyme disease. Because really, and that's one of the things that I do that's helped me get through this a lot easier, is just keeping in mind that this is all about a bacterial infection that can cause a lot worse in your body than Morgellons. I mean, oh yeah, and that was another question that I get all the time. Can Morgellons cause like tinnitus? Can Morgellons cause neuropathy? Can Morgellons cause fever? The basic answer is no. Morgellons is just a condition associated with a bacteria that can result in those other problems, those other conditions. Lyme disease can result in tinnitus. It can result, and so can tick-borne relapsing fever. It can result in the fever. It can result in the malaise, the brain fog. But the Morgellons fibers themselves, simple as I can put it, they're just malformed hairs and superficial skin that are being produced by cells which are infected with this bacteria, the Borrelia. So, keep in mind that Morgellons is not the worst thing that can happen with Lyme disease, but you do want to get it treated if you have it. And in some instances, having Morgellons may be an easier way to test for these hidden infections than the standard tests that we have, and for the reasons which I mentioned earlier. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all sticking in here. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving weekend. I'm getting ready to feed Mom's cat and maybe go to the park and do some working out. What do you guys think? Let me know. Leave a comment down below, and I hope to see y'all soon.